The internet was never intended for civilians.
What we use the internet for today, social media, sharing every detail about ourselves, documenting our entire lives. We all know that this has become Big Brother's playground.
Online surveillance was not an accidental side effect of technology.
It was decades of intentional, methodical decisions made by the most wealthy and powerful organizations in the world. From the cop on your finger, to apps asking for your location when it is absolutely not necessary, to celebrity-endorsed wearable capitalism, we are living in a surveillance machine. Today, we are taking a deep dive into how the internet became what it is today, why companies are fighting so hard to maintain control, and how something that sounded insane 50 years ago became normal.
Everything I'm going to show you is public information.
Either declassified government documents, congressional testimony, court opinions, or verified leaked files the government has never disputed.
To fully understand how this system was built, why, and who it was for, we have to go all the way back to the 1950s.
The question, how do we beat the Soviet Union? The simple answer, we create the internet. On February 7th, 1958, the Department of Defense creates ARPA. The mission was to make sure the US was never caught off guard by technology ever again. And that critical mission created some of the most important technologies today. Personal computers, GPS, stealth technology, and later advancements in robotics and AI.
But ARPA wasn't just about winning the space race. It was about gathering intelligence, information, and control.
But why stop at the bad guys? If you could control the enemy, why would you not control everyone else and your own population?
In 1961, ARPA launches Project Agile. There is very little documentation on what exactly Project Agile was used for. But what we do know is that they are responsible for inventing electronic surveillance of entire populations.
Think infrared light, night vision, flamethrowers. All of these are created by Project Agile under ARPA's wing. Now the pattern is already forming. Use surveillance to track, analyze, and control.
Up until this point, these weapons have been contained and used for war, or to gain intelligence on other countries.
Why not push these efforts to the general population? What better way to experiment than with places built around research, innovation, and young minds? College campuses.
Imagine it now. College. It's 1969. The summer of love.
Your dorm room is decorated. You're finally out of your parents' house, and the world is your oyster. For students and researchers at UCLA, Stanford, Santa Barbara, and the University of Utah, it's just another semester. Little do they know, they're about to become guinea pigs for the early stages of the internet. ARPANET, created by, you guessed it, ARPA. ARPANET was sold to universities as a way to facilitate academic collaboration, share resources, and begin building out databases for knowledge. And this was completely revolutionary for the time. The system was designed to be fully decentralized. Shout out to my crypto bros out there. And resilient enough to survive a nuclear attack. Now this technology changed everything. Without this step, the world as we know it would not exist. Your Amazon order couldn't be delivered, your drunken Taco Bell order wouldn't magically be at your door, and you wouldn't have to feel the shame of your mom posting ugly Facebook pictures of you on your first day of school.
So, what exactly was ARPA using this information for? Because the internet wasn't just a way to connect people, it was a way to understand them.
As we enter the 1970s, the fruits of ARPA's labor are becoming impossible to ignore. Just 20-odd years after this surveillance monster started taking shape, American citizens started realizing just how far the American government's surveillance capabilities could go, without the possibility of return. Enter COINTELPRO, the FBI's secret domestic program.
Thousands of organizations. Hundreds of thousands of individual citizens, all surveilled, infiltrated, and actively targeted. Why? Disruption.
Activists, civil rights leaders, anti-war protesters, feminists, all being watched by US intelligence. Anyone considered a threat in the status quo instantly became a target. This is where all the research and trials conducted on other countries comes back on to American citizens. COINTELPRO is the precursor, the blueprint, if you will, the very elementary version of the surveillance infrastructure we now see today. Civilians start to take note, and temperament towards the government shifts. Do the people in the White House really have our best interest in mind?
1975 became known as the Year of Intelligence. The Senate begins investigating alleged abuses by the CIA, NSA, FBI, and IRS. They create the Church Committee.
This committee is responsible for investigating MKUltra, the CIA's infamous mind control experiments. One lesser-known program revealed something eerily similar to where we are today: Shamrock. Shamrock was a program where major telecommunications companies provided the NSA with massive amounts of communication data. This was one of the first publicly confirmed examples of private companies collecting electronic data and then sharing it with government agencies, with the sole purpose of surveillance. Sound a little familiar?
This marked the beginning of the end.
It was public information and fully confirmed that American citizens were being surveilled by intelligence agencies. Congress responded to this knowledge. They created regulations, oversight, and a law, FISA.
You may be thinking, oh great, the government cares about us being monitored, and that's the end of the story.
Well, you're wrong. FISA was created to regulate intelligence gathering methods. Basically saying you cannot gather intelligence without us knowing, because we're nosy and we need to cover this up if the public finds out.
FISA was never intended to stop this, or provide any ramifications for uncontrolled and unsafe surveillance methods. Rather, make it even more challenging for the public to actually find out what was going on.
So, who was watching the people doing the watching? Surveillance-ception. 1994. Denim overalls, grunge, tiny eyebrows, Princess Diana's revenge dress, and mandatory wiretap capabilities. All the things we love. Congress passed CALIA into public law, and this small change completely alters phone surveillance forever.
The law required telecommunication companies to build surveillance capabilities directly into their infrastructure, which in this case, it was wiretap capabilities.
So from then on, the architecture was set and there is no going back. All telecommunications companies are wiretapped. One small step for mankind, one giant leap for complete and total surveillance. So how do we go from Cold War spy propaganda to AI-powered mega monitoring, brought to you by Palantir? Hold your horses. We have the 2000s to get through.
Now stay with me. We're almost at everyone's favorite dad, Ed Snowden.
September 11th, 2001, the most devastating attacks in American history. 6 weeks later, the Patriot Act is signed. They told us this is for the public's best interests, to keep everyone safe with increased national security and having to take your shoes off at TSA. What they really meant was expanding their surveillance power, including tapping domestic and international phones and authorization of indefinite detention to immigrants without trial. The Patriot Act also grants permission to the FBI to search emails, financial records, and your home without a court order, all with the promise of intercepting and obstructing terrorism efforts. But at what cost?
Just 6 years later, in 2007, Umbrella by Rihanna and The Sweet Escape by Gwen Stefani are blasting through your local water park speakers as you're indulging in a cup of frozen yogurt. All the while, some of the biggest technology organizations in the world are becoming part of the largest surveillance programs ever revealed.
PRISM. According to documents leaked years later, it shows that the NSA had obtained access to all user data held by Microsoft, YouTube, Facebook, Yahoo, Google, AOL, Skype, and Apple. So literally every major technology company at the time. And this was all approved with the FISA court order. In secret, of course.
The sole purpose of PRISM was to become the #1 source of intelligence data used by the NSA for their analytic reporting.
Now, something that feels almost unbelievable is that PRISM receives independent oversight from the judicial, executive, and legislative branches. Essentially, the NSA can collect whatever, whenever.
We have arrived. 2013, Edward Snowden goes public. Our favorite NSA contractor gone rogue.
What Snowden revealed was arguably the biggest turning point in the public's knowledge of government surveillance. Everything from ARPA to PRISM and beyond, all things I cannot fit in a 15-minute video. He revealed thousands of classified NSA documents to journalists, exposing numerous surveillance programs, most of which operating at a global scale.
All run by the NSA and the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance. Sure, what he did is technically considered espionage, but what he unveiled changed everything.
It altered Americans' perception of the government, who we can and cannot trust. If there was any doubt in people's minds before, this document release sent them completely over the edge. And this wasn't the end.
Section 702 of FISA continued, allowing the US government to conduct warrantless surveillance on all non-US citizens outside of the US border.
All in the name of gathering foreign intelligence information. You're about to hear awesome news, and the only awesome news I have for this whole video. As of June 12th, 2026, Section 702 expired. This means that the government cannot issue new surveillance programs. Which, this is me assuming they have some other evil motive behind this one. We've arrived at our finale, AI. You may not know this, but it stands for Artificial Intelligence. It seems like every conversation today leads back to AI whether we like it or not.
Take Clearview AI. This American facial recognition company has scraped billions of images from the internet. They have single-handedly built a facial recognition program that is in use by law enforcement, just by using photos that are publicly available online.
Now you may be familiar with Palantir, which received early investment from QCell, the CIA's venture arm. Palantir builds data analytics platforms. Now these are used by agencies, including ICE and various police departments. Now this brings us full circle. ARPA started in 1958 with a defense mission and a handful of connected computers at universities. Today, this surveillance infrastructure is embedded so deep within our everyday technology. It's everywhere, you willingly opt into it, you're even carrying it. You upload your personal information to it, and you're paying the monthly bill.
The internet gave normal people access to information that was once controlled by a small number of institutions. It created opportunities, communities, and innovation that would have otherwise been impossible.
The realistic question to all of this is, do we actually understand the trade-off that we're making? These companies win when they get your data. They're able to surveil you and build a system where us as American citizens are not the top priority and we are just one big data farm. We have to take back our privacy and not let these big surveillance infrastructure corporations, Palantir, Sam Altman's, Peter Thiel's, Mark Zuckerberg's, win. My goal is to make you feel empowered to make the right decision with your data. What you allow permissions for, what you download, and your overall online presence. We can't go back, but we can go forward. That is it for the video. Make sure to like, subscribe, punch all the buttons in the face, and I'll see you in the next one.